Is that thunder? Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Coffee with Father James. I'm drinking from the Our Lady of Guadalupe coffee mug because I want to speak to something that's very relevant to the life of our parish. Well, I think all of these topics are relevant, but we are, as you know, if you were at Mass this past weekend, we have begun our annual preaching series on giving, on financial giving. And just to give a quick overview, we'll have the preaching for 3 weeks on the topic. Yes, we're going to talk about this for 3 weeks. And I'm going to talk about why in a moment. We're going to talk about this for 3 weeks. But this coming weekend, we're going to be handing out our annual finance report, which is something that we set out to do 3-4 years ago, to make a report that was relevant, that could connect with parishioners. I remember years and years ago being involved in parishes and getting an annual finance report that was almost like this photocopied gobbledygook that no one could understand unless you were an accountant. So we want relevant information. And so our report this year is 12 pages. It's colorful, it's got photographs, it's got testimonies. Why does it have testimonies? Because it's linking the fact that our giving powers the mission. Okay, so evangelization and discipleship are the heart of the life of a parish, because it's literally the heart. It's the heart that animates the body. If the body doesn't have a heart, the arms don't work well. We can't do all these other things. And so evangelization, discipleship, community, none of these things happen by themselves. They're all driven by relationships. And relationships have to be held by people. They have to be served. And I can only do so much. So my point is that oftentimes we need even to support and work with people who volunteer. And the idea is that every parishioner gives of their time as well, that they volunteer in some capacity. In order to direct and help volunteers have an impact, you need staff. And so all of that requires funding. And so we could strip down our parish to the bare minimum and just say, well, we just need money because there's a few salaries like the priest we pay for and the admin cost, and then we just pay the light bills and fix the building, and that's it. But if that's all that we strive to have, then that's all that we're going to have. And our vision is an open-ended parish, that the only limitation is what we're willing to allow God to use us for. Simple as that, because I think that every parish has the potential to be used by God to change its community, even to change the world. So that's the why behind this preaching series. Now, another reason behind the preaching series is the fact that we need to revisit this topic. We really need to revisit it. And there's so many parishes that the topic of financial giving is not addressed because it's difficult to speak about. It really is. I still struggle with it. But over the years, I think in reflection, I've probably been overly apologetic about it. Jesus spoke about money and its impact, its spiritual relevance, more than any other topic. He spoke about it all the time. And so I think as people of faith, we have to look at the question of what God has given us, what God has appointed us stewards of, and what our attitudes towards that are vis-a-vis the mission that God has given us. We need to revisit some of these themes every single year for a couple of reasons. Number one, we need to hear them over and over again. I need to hear them over and over again. I like to say that, the number one person that I'm preaching to is myself. So I need to hear them. I think we as a community need to hear these biblical principles around giving over and over again. The fact that we don't just give to a minimal need. We give because we have a need to give, and we give for the upbuilding of the kingdom of God. The other reason why we need to return to these themes again is because every year we have a lot of new parishioners who have never heard these messages before. And so that's our goal, and my ardent hope is that you take ownership of this message, of the request, to help make our parish financially sustainable. As you will hear in the homilies, we're not yet there. We depend a lot on outside donors to help us balance our books. We have outside funding that helps us have the staff that we have. We have volunteer staff that do incredible work. But this past year alone, we've had to downsize the number of staff that we have. And so we're kind of tightening the belt. We're going to be okay. I think everything, we're moving gradually in the right direction. But it's only going to continue to move in that direction if everyone takes ownership of our parish. That we don't just show up as guests, but we see ourselves really as owners, that we literally buy in. Jesus said, where your treasure is, there is your heart. And I guarantee you this, that there's one way to have parishioners increase their sense of ownership over this parish, and that's for them to increase their giving. You literally buy into something, you feel responsible, you feel like you want to have a say in the matter, and we want you to have a say in the matter of our parish. We want you to not just be a visitor or a guest in our parish, but to truly be an owner, to take ownership of the mission that Jesus has called us to. So that's what's going to be happening over these next 3 weeks, or last week in the next 2 weeks, whenever you're watching this video. That's why we repeatedly have this preaching series annually, and it's why we seek to have transparency in our messaging around how we've stewarded the resources that you've given us. And I pray that in the coming week that the Lord will help you to discern your commitment, your financial commitment. I know that we're all stretched, and especially in this past year of uncertainty, but I'm going to ask you not to just think of God and your parish and the mission of the church simply from what's left over, but you may give that prime consideration and bring it to prayer and ask the Lord, how are you calling me? How are you calling us as our family to give to the parish this year? Not just to give to the parish, but to give to the mission of the parish, because you are the parish. Thank you, everyone, and God bless.